Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to June 11th. Tonight is Wednesday, June 11th. We're going to be discussing June 12th daily MLB action alongside Furious slash Brandon. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm doing exactly what I said in the chat, and I'm trying to actually chat something as I'm talking. So, how are you doing?
Good. It's been it's been so busy here for me. And I know it's been a crazy kind of schedule for Lou TV here recently. But I'm glad to be back. Glad to have a show. Um, outside of the ride and solo, it's nice to kind of get some other human interaction while I'm on here. So that's always fun. How's DFS been going for you?
It's been going well. I had one of the things that you and me last week, we went over some pretty solid picks. I ended up cashing really nice the next night. I finished top five and 4,000 people on DK. It was really solid. So I had a couple days after where I was running kind of hot. Then I cooled off Sunday-ish. So I took some time off, a couple days. It leads us to Wednesday night. But I wanted to talk about it on the show a little bit because it's something that people forget about. This time of year starts getting really busy, as you know, as I know, everyone does. And in the summer months, sometimes when you're hot for 3 or 4 days and you're playing, if you start to cool down, maybe you jump off immediately for another 2 or 3 days. I did it last year, and it was beautiful because on my cold streaks, technically I was sitting out. And I look at the news from the night before when I didn't play, and there's a lot of weird stuff that happened that I'm like, I definitely would have fallen victim to that. So
Uh,
taking a little bit of a break sometimes, even 2 or 3 days, is almost necessary when we get into the summer because everyone's schedules get more busy, but it also helps your brain. And I don't know, those non-losing days paired with the 3 or 4 winning days in a row, it starts working out pretty nice. So I forgot about that, and before the show, I wanted to talk about that to just anyone that is thinking it's like, should I take 2 or 3 days off? It's like, yeah, you probably should. Do it up and then see how your next three are.
Yeah, you know what? That's something I guess we haven't really discussed. When is it a good time to take a night off or anything like that? And I'm glad you brought that up, and it's not a bad time to talk about it now, especially that we have a shorter slate. I would play every single night and grind away. Had I had that opportunity, but right now, coaching this team and just readjusting kind of my schedule now that I'm back home and not in Pittsburgh. Um, I've been taking those nights off, not, as a luxury due to like a losing streak or anything like that, or just to even get a breather. It's been, merely the fact that I can't, honestly, I just can't possibly put any lineups in or anything like that. So it has been disappointing because I was playing really well, prior to coming home. And I'm still trying to get in as much as I can right now. But my schedule just really hasn't allowed for it. And it's going to slow down here a little bit for me, especially as I get kind of acclimated to the schedule, this routine while I'm back home. So looking to kind of pounce back in sometime soon here. But yeah, it has been kind of nice to not have to think about it so much. But it's still always lingering in my mind. I'm watching the games anyway, so.
Well, that's one of the things that you're touching upon. When you know that your coaching schedule is filled on a Thursday night, it's like if you just embrace it, just run with it and go, hey, I mean, I can watch the games, I can still pay attention if I have time, but I'm just going to take one day breather. You're not fighting yourself with your prior real life commitments, and I don't know, it releases the weight off your shoulders a little of. I mean, I'm kind of with you of the I would play every night, if time allowed, and every day I'm thinking about playing even the days I'm not, but looking back, man, it's pretty good if you just embrace those days when you know your schedule will not allow it. And you're just like, okay, today is a day that real life is just too much. So it's like embrace those kind of days through the summer, and I think it'll help a lot of people's MLB DFS.
Yeah. No, that's. I'm glad we brought that up. And we do have baseball to get to. I did want to say just one thing. I felt like maybe I should try to channel a little bit of Chris K. Just because he was the guy that kind of we started this whole thing with, he and I, and we actually haven't gotten a whole lot of time to do the show together. But I have these glasses here. I don't have quite the style that he has. But I put them on top just as a tribute, thinking of Chris K if he's out there watching. But anyway, we shall hop into some MLB because that's what guys are tuning in for. There's not a whole lot of, well, I guess it's not a full slate tomorrow.
We've got a
But
weird
the first,
slate.
yeah, it's a split slate. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 day games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 night games. So looks like 8 teams have a night off tomorrow.
Hey,
So
this is exactly what a week ago we were talking about with, a lot of people will take tomorrow off, and where it's a shorter slate of games, sometimes you can zero in. I personally, looking at it, like the night games a hell of a lot better when you have 7 to choose from compared to these 4 early ones. But
right, and especially when you look at kind of 2 of these early ones, and you look at the game in Philadelphia where there's rain, you look in Cincinnati where there's maybe some rain, and then even in the nightcap there's rain, which sucks. Here on the East Coast, it's been kind of bleak all week long. The rain's actually held off for the most part, but it looks like eventually here it's going to probably just kind of downpour one of these days. But anyway, let's hop into this first one. It's the first game of the day. It's a 12:35 Eastern start at Great American Ballpark, featuring the Reds and Dodgers. I know that game is the game that's on in my living room right now as we speak. But it's gonna be Zach Greinke and the reliever turned starter who's been fantastic, Alfredo Simon, for the Reds. Initial thoughts here. Anything, just hearing those 2 names, is there anything that kind of you're initially getting at here?
well, Simon, I don't know. Like I was looking at his game logs. 3 of his past 4 have been okay. He's mid-range price too, so we've only got 8 pitchers we're looking at in this early slate, and at his price range, I'm probably going to consider him. The Dodgers' bats have been watered down a little bit with injuries and such, so yeah, he's 7,500 on DK, which is, Greinke on the other hand is 11.6, 4,000 more, and he can go for a complete game shutout, and against the Reds, it's definitely not out of the possibilities of happening for sure. But he's been under 15 points in 3 out of his past 4, and he's commanding the highest salary. So yeah, originally I look at it and it's like I'll be taking Simon on a few GPP teams, and Greinke, I don't know. I might have to fade him because he's so expensive.
Yeah, it's tough. I think this is a difficult decision that's always kind of presented in slates like this, where it's a split slate, and the slates that we have are small anyway. Even if you played it all day, it's still a smaller slate. So you're dealing with less pitchers as it is, and when you look at the board, Greinke's one of those top guys, like no doubt about it. So for that reason, you definitely have to have him in the back of your mind and in consideration for some of your lineups. And I think when you think about the early slate, he probably has to be in your lineup based on some of these other games. So that's what I'm going to say on that. I do want to mention that the Reds do have Joey Votto back. He had a double tonight that I saw. I believe it was a 2-run double tonight. So that's a huge lift for them offensively.
That is
maybe
big.
we'll.
And when
maybe we will.
One of the problems that you have when you take a break is that if you're out of the loop for even 24 or 48 hours, the injury stuff can flip on you. Even guys I'm talking about tonight, they may have tweaked their ankle last night, and I wasn't paying 100% attention. It's like this is, the taking the days off and going back, it can be a little rough because like a Votto thing, that wasn't really on my radar, and it's like there's one that, taking the break, you gotta really dive into the injuries at that point. So that's interesting. He's really expensive, Logie, but if you guys are playing cash games, then you probably do. You probably have to.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. GPPs, obviously, he's still going to have a lot of exposure, but in tournaments like that, you can take the chance, maybe not with all your lineups, but you can take the chance to roll 1, maybe 2 without him and see kind of what happens should he get banged around. Because I do like him so much, though, even with Votto back, which is going to completely change the whole dynamic of that offense in Cincinnati, even with Votto back, I don't want any Reds hitters against Greinke. I don't think that's a safe matchup to play there. And the Dodgers lineup is a lineup that is kind of weird right now. It's let's see. Guys have been like leaving games early. Kemp got like ejected tonight. Hanley got scratched.
Yep.
It's just like it's been a complete. I could say a couple bad words to describe it. I won't. But it's been like a madhouse with them. Like in that last series against Colorado, D. Gordon left the game early. Puig left the game early. Like all this,
That D.
all this
Gordon
stuff's kind of
tough. I had
yeah.
him at a lot of spots. I was like, oh, D, what happened, buddy?
Yeah, but those guys are back in the lineup now. I guess we'll have to wait and see on this Hanley thing. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm pretty sure I saw that he got scratched. I don't know. I'm not watching the game right now, but
I saw that on Twitter myself that he wasn't going to be playing for whatever reason. I didn't dig into it, but I just see his name go by. It's like, all right, well, we got to put eyes on him for sure.
Right. Yes, you know what? The guys in this game that I'm on anyway are the Dodgers hitters. Even Simon, I have to respect what he's done. He's done this season. I pretty much talk crap on him because I don't like the whole guy coming out of the bullpen to be a pitcher. If you look at his statistics as a starting pitcher, the season last time he was a starter, he wasn't good. He wasn't very good. So I expected him, as his innings increased. Because obviously he hasn't thrown this many innings in a while. I expected as his innings increased that he would kind of drop off. I guess we haven't really seen that yet. But I'm not totally on board with him. So the guys are D. Gordon, Adrian Gonzalez, some of those guys are the platoon advantage. That's where I'm going here. But let's run into the next one because we actually spent a bit of time on that one. It's the Phillies Padres. It's a 105 star. This one looks like it has some scary rain potential, so this might be a game that we're completely off. But for the sake of discussion, let's talk about it anyway. The Phillies. Sorry.
That's the biggest issue. Rain. This is one of those games that I start salivating at. Hitters on both sides, and the weather that can derail us. And this of the 4 games, this is the worst. I mean. It's tough because it's like I'm gonna see those lineups. I'm gonna wanna roster both bats on either team, but this one could actually have weather. So, I mean, are you thinking different? Are you looking at either of these pitchers?
I will say that if it held, I think Andrew Kashner, who's actually making his second start now back. He was a huge Cubs prospect, so I do know a little bit about this guy out of TCU, Texas Christian University. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Anyway, he was awesome in his first start back. The Phillies are, we talk about this a bunch, an aging, declining offense who we have successfully used starting pitchers against in GPPs before. Guys like Zach Wheeler and, other guys like that have kind of flown under the radar as pitching options on a given day, but have really fared well in that matchup. So I think Kashner makes for a solid tournament play because there is a lot of strikeout potential there. He's got a really, really nice arm. He's got really good stuff. He runs the ball up. I didn't watch his last start. I'd be interested to see what his velo is at. That would actually probably make a difference in how often I roster a guy like him tomorrow. But I think he is a solid GVP play. Were you thinking mainly Phillies bats, or were you thinking Padres bats? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, honestly, Weapon X, which I did you earlier for the nerds and geeks out there, Logan, Wolverine, Weapon X. I was looking at DK's starting pitchers with Stoltz at 5,300 for San Diego. So the second you talk Kashner, it's like, okay, something has happened that I'm not aware of. And Kashner over Stoltz, that completely flips it for me. So, I mean, I'm going to be looking at probably a lot of San Diego bats, as weird as that is, against Kendrick. I don't think Kendrick's worth very much, personally. And you mentioned the declining Philly bats. It's like, that bumps up Kashner for me. So that's something big. Was that announced recently, or maybe my DK page isn't updated properly?
You know what? It might be because I'm looking at the ESPN page. I'm seeing Stoltz. Let me go to I have this problem because I use that ESPN page just because it has the list of all the pitchers.
Yeah.
It has the
I
comprehensive
entered
list.
into a DK to check it out, and it had Stultz listed, so that's who I assume. That's why I'm all over San Diego and Philly bats. I mean, you
Right,
throw
right, right.
instead of Stultz, and yeah, we've got a completely different ball game in my head. So yeah, I guess that's something
Let
that
me let me pull this up.
tabs on for sure.
Let me pull this up real quick. I just went to the Padres official site. It's going to load for me.
I
I'm probably
wait on this because I'm a big.
approaching the
It's a potential
yeah,
ace against.
probably approaching. Okay, Matt Bell said it's Cashner too.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that changes my thinking completely.
I
If it's Kashner, then like sometimes DK doesn't update that stuff. Sometimes it's good for newer guys that are only looking at that wouldn't even think to consider elsewhere too. It's like, hey, just because they have them listed as a probable doesn't mean something's happened in the past 24 hours or not.
right, right, right. Man, I don't know why my yeah. You know what? The Padres official website says Stoltz.
I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to monitor that one. Depending
Uh,
on which pitcher we're looking at, either we roster the batters against them or we don't, and that's an easy call. It's like just give us your
it
active
com-
starter and we'll know.
I think it completely changes things. If it's Stoltz, I'm all board every hitter in this game because I don't like Kendrick at all.
Exactly.
If it's Cashner, I'm gonna temper my expectations on the Phillies bats just a tad.
Yeah.
Still like guys against Kendrick.
So that's it.
So
Right
kind
there.
of
That's the analysis. It's like check the San Diego Padres pitcher. If it's Kashner or Stultz, that's where we know where we're going in that game. But either way, we're going up against Kendrick. So moving on, third game.
yeah, man. Yeah, so guys monitor that. And if we get any like official source on that by the end of the show, we'll definitely go back to touch on that because I think that's really important, especially if you're playing like an early slate only type thing. This next game will also be really important because of where it's being played. The Rockies and the Braves at Coors Field. We saw 23
Oh,
23 runs last night in between these two teams, honestly. It's Irvin Santana and Jalice Chassin.
oh
Is that
boy.
correct?
I
That's what I'm seeing.
I wouldn't even attempt the first name. I would just go with Chessin. That's all I go with. So I'm gonna call your
I'm
first.
pretty sure it's Jalice.
That sounds correct to me. I'm on board with that, and I'm not impressed. And we're in Colorado, and ooh, there's gonna be some runs tomorrow. Especially Irvin Santana too. It's like another guy that me and Chris have talked about him. He'll start out the season real nice. He'll fool people for 3 or 4 games, maybe 5, and then he just has a nice steady decline. And he's in Colorado. Ooh, this one's tasty, Logie. It is.
Yeah, man. And I that is like the perfect adjective for all games in Colorado. Tasty. Because like some tasty things. I think that's honestly that might be perfect because tasty things are great. Like, and a lot of times they really satisfy us, and we don't even think twice. And then there's other times where we eat something really tasty and we end up really, really regretting it. We're like, oh man, I shouldn't have had that. That's kind of what you get sometimes when you stack Course Field and it doesn't work out. You're just like, oh man, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
So I think tasty is perfect. I think that's a great adjective.
that's awesome. That was beautiful.
Yeah. This just for the sake of it being course field, never for pitchers for me, ever, ever, ever. And I'm sure you feel probably the same way.
I'm a
Um,
GPP guy. I'll play almost anyone at any time, and I still have to avoid the pitchers. I have to do it.
right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And if you look at how these are both right-handed guys. For some of you new guys that might not know, if you look at some of these guys, excuse me, how they've performed recently, Santana and Chacin, you will not be impressed at all. And I talked about this with you the last time we were on the show. It's a really noob thing to do just to look at like ERA and wins and losses,
hmm.
because it's not indicative of how a pitcher is actually performing, especially for daily fantasy sports
Yeah.
perspective. But in this case, when you look at these two guys' recent performances and you see those ERAs, it should scare you off, rightfully so. And even if you're just looking at that, you're going to hit the nail on the head with that kind of tomorrow because eek, this is like no on either of these guys. But with the same token, because of that, were allotted all of those hitters. You
Mhm.
know, they're all in play.
Yeah.
Any specific hitters you have in your head?
Freddie Freeman. We got to fire him off. There's got to be some BVP stats or weird stuff to back him up too, but I don't know. Gaddis, even though he's a righty, he's been playing well. And he's a guy that I keep missing by like one game. I don't know if you get involved in that with the DFS, but you think a guy's going to have a huge night, you don't play him. Some people probably got burned by Chisholm Hall the other night, like because the day before they were all over him. They faded him the next night. He goes off for like 60 points on DK. But it's like Gaddis is one of those guys for me. So I'll probably throw him in the lineup, and who knows what will happen. But Freeman, he's always going in. And then, I mean, what's up with Justin Upton? Is he completely healthy? I've seen his name through the news.
He
Like,
was in the lineup tonight.
okay.
Yeah.
So if he's back to being healthy, then he's going in. I always have a problem with the BJ. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's a really inconsistent BJ. We'll say that. We'll
Sloppy.
leave it at
No
that.
one likes this sloppy. So, I mean,
Right.
Atlanta, Colorado, stack up the bats, look at lefty, righty, embrace the ERAs that are already high, that are going to convince those guys to go with that anyways. You've got 4 games, it's like this is one I'm targeting huge on the early
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, and rightfully so. It should be, guys. This should be the game. One guy that you didn't mention from the Atlanta side that I like is Jay Hay at the top there, Jason Hayward.
Yep.
I love this season that they've let him run. The power like hasn't really translated yet. I mean, this is a big guy, dude. Jason Hayward's he's a big dude. And hopefully, he kind of grows into it because I think he has some untapped power. But the nice thing is, Coors Field obviously helps that. That increases his chances of hitting a home run. And then you kind of double down a little bit and get a little safer with the fact that he can even get on base and steal for you as well. So that's just another nugget there, guys. Make sure you're aware of kind of all the injuries in that Rockies lineup, and really kind of, I know it's going to be tough to wait and see, but if you're playing a site like DK where you can swap, make sure, you're kind of like glued to that a little bit, especially if you're using a lot of guys. Kadyr's gone. Arenado's not there right now. Cargo, the team's just kind of banged up. I know Tulo's the first guy that anybody jumps to, but you can find a lot of value when you're talking about Coors Field. So
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move out of this early slate because, like you said, it is disgusting. We got about 7 games in the late slate to get to, and then hopefully we can just kind of mess around and have some.
We should touch upon Washington, San Fran. We haven't hit that one yet.
Did I skip that one?
Perhaps,
Oh,
because
okay, yeah, that is
Hudson is pretty
that's
high on my list for his affordability. It's like
right.
he's $2,000 less than Greinke, so I'm looking at rostering him a bit, and I might even be taking some Giants against Blake Trenan.
Trenian, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's not a ton to touch on there, but Hudson, nice affordable price, and I'll be rostering him on a few. So, not without saying.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip that. I feel the same way. He's an excellent number 2 pitcher guy. Like excellent, like perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect fit for that role. No bats really that kind of jump out to me. A guy that I don't use a whole lot in DFS purposes, but is like sneaky pretty good, and he's just a pretty valuable player in general. Is a guy like Angel Pagan. He really flies under the radar. He used to play for the Cubs, so obviously he's got just a little bit extra in my heart than some of these other guys. I think he's a super underrated player. Flies under the radar, and he doesn't have a lot of flash and flair for DFS. But when you got 4 games to choose from, we can't really be too picky with our matchups and our upside. So maybe a guy like that. There's other bats there that you could try to get cute with. Like, it's stupid, but like Brandon Crawford is good sometimes. I don't know. It's just like dumb when things like that happen. I don't know. Anyway, let's get out of this slate because I don't want to talk about it.
I know you tried to get out of it. I reeled you back in just for a second because Hudson's worth a mention, basically. Some
Right.
in lineups. Moving on.
Right. All right. Blue Jays, Orioles. This is at Camden Yards. Rain is a big time factor here,
Yeah.
as is like all four of these first four games we're going to talk about on the East Coast. So before we even mention these East Coast games, make sure you guys are aware that rain is an issue.
Yeah. It's
It's not a fun thing to mess around with in baseball, especially when we're talking pitchers, especially when we're talking pitchers. You do not want to get burned with that, guys. But anyway, I just want to make that clear. We're going to talk about these games, but be sure, to know that they are very, very scary games in terms of weather. But anyway, let's just talk about them. Let's get them out of the way. The Blue Jays, Orioles. And the Blue Jays were kind of disappointing at home this last series against the Twins. They get to see Kevin Gausman, huge prospect for the Orioles. Guy's a flamethrower. He's got excellent stuff. I actually got to watch him pitch live last season at Camden Yards. And Mark Burley, who's just been, I don't even know. He's been Burley. Like, I don't know how you describe the guy against the Orioles, who have guys who hit left-handed guys really well. What are your thoughts here? I mean, you're not going to use Burley, are you? He just, like, you can't use him in DFS, but it's awesome that he keeps winning.
Burley is gross. Like, we talked about this, I think it was me and CK the other night, about picking gross players. And, it's like some of these guys that are, they sport nice win-loss records. They sport nice ERAs. And they're expensive. And you're like, am I really going to pay, for Burley? He's got to be up there. I'm looking right now.
No, you can't be. He doesn't strike anybody out.
It doesn't matter. He's got wins. Yeah, he's $9,000. He's the fourth highest pitcher on DK. It's like,
that's gross.
That's exactly.
Do not pay.
Right there. It's like, do you want to pay
$9,000 for
Burley, or would you rather look at Sale or Scherzer, who are a couple grand more than him? It's like, he's a gross pick. So no, he won't be going on my teams. If he has a nice game where he somehow gets a bunch of Ks, that's great. But a site where a win is heavily favored, then maybe. But you pointed out in the beginning, the weather on at least 5 of these games is looking. Ugh, I'm in the Northeast, and it's been nothing but gray for the past day or two, and we've had showers all the time.
Same here.
It's tough, yeah. It's like you're down more south, other guys are further south, and all of us are just like, it's been rain. So if it's on the East Coast or close to it, then we're in danger tomorrow. So, you mentioned the pitchers. That's the most important thing to me about weather, DFS, MLB issues, because if a game is delayed for even 2 hours from the start, sometimes you don't see your starting pitcher, you'll get a 0. So the starting pitchers is the most important thing when looking at weather to me.
Yeah. There's no way else to kind of put that. You hit that on the head. I'm not on any of these guys, any of these pitchers, because of that weather. But if something were to happen where Mother Nature just like takes a day off and it clears up tremendously, the guy, honestly, that I would consider in this game is not going to be the guy that other people are probably going to say. It would be Gausman, just because, I don't think he's going to go deep in the game, but this guy has huge strikeout potential. His stuff is incredible. If you don't believe me, go watch a highlight clip of what this guy brings to the table. Fantastic stuff. I can't really.
I'll stop you there, man. He's the second lowest priced pitcher on DK, 6,100, right above Feldman of Houston, in Houston, which we'll talk about later. But if he's the second highest priced pitcher, if you can give me some clear weather for 2 or 3 hours with the stuff he has, Toronto's hot, but they're in Baltimore. I mean, it's a different scenario. I could get on board with him for a couple of my rosters. I'm sold on that, depending on weather.
GPPs, this is, I think, a very good play, especially at that price. It's going to allow you to get bats. Cash games, where it's a whole different monster. We're talking a little bit different. But anyway, that would be my thoughts on this game. Offensively, the guys that mash lefties, Adam Jones, Nelson Cruz, you have to mention them. And then you got to mention those big bats from Toronto, just because it can happen against anybody. From Reyes down through Edwin, and Adam Lind and Juan Francisco get a right-handed guy tomorrow. Just throwing all the names out there.
You are. You just throw them all out there. Like I've struggled with Toronto myself. It starts on DK personally with the E5 Lind choice that you usually have to make no matter what. It's like that kind of throws me off on these mini Toronto stacks I've been throwing out there. But I like Osmond enough that I'm going to be fading Toronto a bunch, and maybe a couple of my teams will have some of their bats, but they've cooled off enough for me to get behind Gosman a little bit, and Burley's regular gross thing is going to happen too. So
Yeah. Let's move on though. Let's talk about a team that I know fairly well. They're pretty close to my heart. They've been playing real good baseball, honestly. Like no joke, no homeristic here. The Cubs have been playing good baseball. If anybody's been watching, Cubs Pirates tomorrow night at PNC Park. I so wish I was in Pittsburgh because I would have been at all 4 games of this series. But unfortunately, I'm not, so I'm here. Jeff Samardzija, though, tomorrow against Edinson Volquez. Initially, I mean, you got to lean Samardzija like is a good play, right?
the Shark. Yeah, that's one of our buddy CK's favorite picks. The Shark. He loves Samardzija. He's under 9K on DK, which we love. That's a very solid price for his K potential. Edinson Volquez, on the other hand, is 6,600, and I mean they're in Pittsburgh, so I'll give them a little leeway. But like you said, you are being a homer a little bit, with the Chicago Cubby fan mystique. But they've been playing hot lately, so I'll give you that. It's like I'll take some Chicago bats against Volquez, and I'll be using
Rizzo.
Oh, of course. You don't have to sell me on Rizzo. Late Castro. Those are my three that I was rotating in no matter what. I'll get a little crazy and throw whoever's catching or Shearholtz or a couple of those guys too. But yeah, no, those, Castro, Rizzo, and Lake, I've been putting in a lot of GPPs when they've been running decent like they have.
Yeah. Man. I like. Okay, so off topic here, but I don't care. When I did go see the Cubs play in Pittsburgh, when they were in Pittsburgh, I saw them play 2 of their 3 in Pittsburgh, and I was at that 16-inning game, which was Game 2. I had a test the next day and didn't leave. I was there until like 2 a.m. Anyway, don't tell my mom. I got an A on the test, so who cares? Anyway, the Pirates fans gave Junior Lake so much shit, and he just played. I was sitting in the left field bleachers, and they just gave him so much shit, and he just played right into it. It was so awesome. And I liked Junior Lake beforehand, but I loved him like 10 times more after that whole thing happened. And I think he's a guy that brings a lot of energy to the Cubs, and he obviously has some potential. He's got a lot of pop in his bat. He strikes out a lot, but
That's what
yeah,
it is.
a guy against a guy like Edinson Volquez, is very very prone to just kind of. Well, am I still here?
I still got you.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. My screen went all weird. Against a guy who's like very prone to kind of just like maybe blowing up and being terrible. Yeah, I like all those guys. Rizzo's my favorite by far. Rizzo's been on fire, absolutely
Rizzo.
on fire.
Awesome.
And I think I don't think you get cute and pick Pirates against Samardzija, but should mention that Polanco's up now. If he's min price, he's going to be in a good spot in the order, and the guy's a stud. I guess if you're like really looking for somebody, and if you want kind of that excitement of using a guy like that, but no thanks on any bucks against Samardzija. So
It's funny, you touched upon all the Junior Lake stuff. That was a nice little experience you had personally there. He is one of the best GPP guys ever. And on a site like DraftKings that doesn't penalize you for strikeouts, you can fire away with him. He's usually cheap, and when he goes off, he goes off. He duds you a bunch, but he is one of the ultimate GPP guys. Last year, he cost me like a second to a fifth place finish with some double dong night, I think. But then like 2 nights later, the home run that he hit switched me from fifth to second. So I had like a 3 or 4 day span with him where I was riding the GPP roller coaster, and I don't know. He's a really fun GPP play. So, you might be a Cubs fan, but I'm not at all, and I still get behind stuff like that constantly.
right. Well, let's move on from the Cubbies because I could talk about them all night. But the people don't want to hear me do that. So we'll talk about the Red Sox. We'll talk about the Indians. Another rain game, at Fenway Park.
Oh,
The Red Sox are pretty close to your heart there. Josh Tomlin and John Lester tomorrow.
Oh God, I'm almost hoping for weather issues at this point. I don't. It's tough being a Red Sox fan, man. I mean, a week ago we're looking at, oh, we got like a 7 or 8 game win streak. Things are looking pretty solid. It's like, no, actually, we're gonna have probably another 6 or 7 game losing streak right after to negate it. So I don't know. What do we got? We got Tomlin and then Lester, who's number 3 on pitching tomorrow. I don't know. Lester scares the hell out of me. He'll throw up a good game, but oh, his potential to put up a stinker has been so bad lately. So I don't know. Being the Red Sox fan that I am, this game it's tough because when they're in such a slump, I need to see them heat up a little bit before I start taking pitchers or batters from the team because I just can't touch them. I may go against I may take Cleveland people against Leicester as a contrarian, but again, that's oh, this was a bad time to talk about the Sox, and I don't know how they're doing. If anything's
Can
off.
I rub something in your face real quick here?
Ooh.
Uh,
Here I am.
I
It's like, hey, I'm down and out. We're on a series losing. Oh yeah, your Cubs. They
um,
basically started winning when we started talking about this. So yes, please kick me right in the rib. I got one.
okay. I saw an article. I can't remember who wrote it. On Sports Illustrated with the playoff odds updated for like baseball as of right now.
Oh God.
And I knew the Cubs odds weren't going to be like anything too high, but I was kind of interested to look just because they are like 7 out of their last 10 they've won, and they've been playing better baseball. Their bullpen's been really good, so I was just interested and curious to see kind of where they fell. Um, the Cubs and the Red Sox both currently have a 6% chance of making the playoffs.
Oh.
Okay, now that doesn't sound like, I guess, a big deal because, like, okay, yeah, they're the same chance of making the playoffs. But the Red Sox won the World Series last year, and the Cubs are supposed to be atrocious, and you guys have the same chance,
Yeah.
according statistically, have the same chance apparently.
All right,
So,
I'll give you that one rib punch. I'll say if we talked about this one week beforehand, your percentages would be way off, and you wouldn't have shit to talk
they
about.
would be different.
We'll give
Correct.
you
Correct.
at
They
this
would be different.
point, yeah, we're both 6%, and I don't know. I need some friggin' pitchers. That's what's killing me. And I was joking about it on Twitter with some people. It's like, hey, I need Beckett and Bedard back. Even though Bedard, hey, he's been weird, but he's been solid enough. It's like, give me those 2 guys back. I don't know what the hell. We got rid of them. They were terrible, and they've been very serviceable compared to some of our other dudes. So, yeah, moving on. You got that one in there.
Moving on. One thing I want to say before we move on, though, is I do like Lester. I do. I love the strikeout potential. So that's it for me. Brewers Mets though. Another really really heavily rain potential game. It looks like it's going to be John Neese and Kyle Loesch. Man, I think this is a weird game because this is a game where these two pitchers kind of fly under the radar. I think they're better than they are seen. Neither one of them are fantasy pitchers. They're kind of like the Ben Roethlisbergers of daily MLB.
That was
Guys who
that
go
was
out and
That was
perform.
absolutely amazing. That was the perfect. There's such a mid-range guy that could potentially get 4 or 5 touchdowns out of nowhere. Lowe's is exactly like that to me. He's a mid-range price guy. He's going up against the K-friendly Mets. That could be a very interesting play. And Nice, on the other hand, I don't like him as much against the Bucks, but yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting pitching game. He's 7,500 on DK, and Lowe's is 8,700. So you've got 2 pitchers that are mid to low priced in this one, and it could potentially be a pitching duel of sorts. But oh, the Roethlisberger, that was beautiful, Logie. Love it.
Well, you know what? And with having said that, it does. I think both these guys are good pitchers. It does push me off hitters more than I would like, more than I would, in another circumstance. I do love Brewers guys against left-handed guys, so I will mention that. I do like Brewers bats more, obviously way more than I like Mets bats, and I do, for that reason, like Loesch more than I like Neese. But at the same time, I think this is kind of like a meh game. They're playing at Citi Field, very, very spacious place. So I think it's plug and play with Brewers bats against Nice.
I
But
can
it's
agree.
not a game I'm going to touch with that weather.
Well, if the
So
weather clears up, I'm going Lucroy, Segura, and Chris Davis probably to round the three out to begin with. But I'm going to be playing some Los, so I won't be going many Mets tomorrow. I'll probably be fading them altogether. But yeah, you mentioned the weather concerns. That's big on that one. So, and where we're targeting some of the pitching of sorts, we got to keep closer eyes on it.
right, right, right. Hey, let's. Why don't we talk about a game that doesn't have any weather concerns? Would that be that'd be kind of cool, right?
Those
Um,
exist on a seven-game slate when five out of the seven have. Wait, what is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
A dome?
What?
Is it a dome?
No, 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 no. It's Tigers White Sox at U.S. Cellular in Chicago. Chris Sale and Max Scherzer. Talk about strikeouts tomorrow.
Oh,
Uh,
that is a flamethrower game. That game is going to be hot. We love that stuff, especially White Sox style. I don't know. I think Chris K's boys are going to strike it a lot. Sale against Scherzer is oof, that one's got me pretty
what a
excited.
fun game, dude.
Yeah,
Like even not even for DFS purposes, just
exactly.
for just in pleasure of watching baseball. This is a fantastic game. Chris Sale is unreal. He's absolutely incredible, and everybody knows kind of what to expect from Scherzer. You might see like a bajillion strike. I mean, the only guy that you're not going to see probably strike out is Victor Martinez, and that's just because he doesn't do it. He won't allow it.
Yeah, he'll
So,
It's Sale is just I don't know. I've been a believer of him since last year, and he hasn't let me down many times. Only around injuries when he's coming back or heading to, or Sale has been amazing. But Scherzer, on the other hand, too. It's like he's going up against the K-friendly White Sox. It's like this game I'm excited for, like you said, not as a DFS player, but just as a baseball fan. Scherzer against Sale, we love this. And Chris K somewhere
right.
probably getting somewhat excited watching this telecast, thinking about it. That's about as far as I can go into that for detail, but
Right. You know what? I think you need to have exposure to both of these guys somewhere or another tomorrow night
mm,
because the potential is kind of limitless with these two guys. With the like supreme, like superior pitching there tomorrow, no hitters at all. No, none, none. Not even Miggy against Sale. No, thanks, none. Nobody,
mm-mm.
nobody.
I'm all set.
So.
I'm not even gonna go crazy GPP and throw Abreu in there. I'm fading the bats in that game. I think it's a pitcher's matchup. Even as a GPP guy, I'm probably gonna try to squeeze those guys in somewhere because I don't know. It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be really low scoring, and they both could possibly go 30 to 40 points on DK, in my opinion.
Right, right. Let's talk about. We got two more games. Let's talk about those.
Okay?
Diamondbacks and Astros. That's at Minute Maid Park, so there is a retractable roof there, so we don't have to worry about weather or anything like that.
That's the
Um,
one I thought you were talking about earlier. I had a 50-50 shot. I was like, are you going
right.
CK's Tigers, or are we going my Astros with the Springer and the Singleton and the Altuve? We love it.
Against Wade Miley. Wade Miley, Scott Feldman. Feldman's back now. Um, eek. Like, what do you say here? I don't know.
Wade
What do you say?
Miley
What do you say?
Wade Miley's been serviceable. He's got that bedarded feel as of late, where it's like, yeah, you're burly, you're mid-range, you're gonna win some shit, you're doing solid, but I'm still not a believer. And we're in Houston. Every time I see we're back in Houston, they get on my radar. Miley could get lit up tomorrow, and depending on who's in the lineup, I love my Stroh stack. Matt Bell can attest to that. I gave up on the Lou Dogs chat for a few because we just got to finish the show. It was distracting me a little bit, but you've got Miley's a lefty, so you fire up Altuve very quickly. Maybe Dominguez and Springer for sure. Those three, if they're in the lineups and everything, those are the three that jump out right to me right away.
Yeah, those would be the three guys. I think you need to mention Chris Carter, who has unlimited dong potential, as another guy there. And what was I gonna say? I love that you mentioned Wade Miley has been serviceable because I think that's perfect. I think that fits in quite perfectly. Uh, hasn't been something that like you feel like awesome about rolling out Wade Miley, because you don't, but he has been serviceable, yeah. So if you really are stretching it thin tomorrow and need a second pitcher, this is still the Astros. Like they are a young, undisciplined team who could on a night, not show up. But I will say they are better against left-handed guys, and they've been good recently, like fairly decent offensively recently. So that's what I'd say on that. Dude, the thing that's weird about for me is that Feldman has not been good recently, but he was awesome to start the year. He was really good in the first half last year for the Cubbies. Yay! And what was I gonna say?
I don't know.
And the Diamondbacks don't really have that great of a lineup. The two guys that I like kind of always roll out right now with the Diamondbacks against right-handed guys are Parra and Miguel Montero.
Oh yeah. No, I'm definitely on board with that. I don't know. I don't have much faith. Feldman, it's like, if Goldie's in the lineup, he could make my team. Hill, Prado, I mean, it's like we're in a hitter's park against Feldman. He can barely hit 10 points on DK his past 4 or 5. I'm taking Arizona bats for sure in that one with Houston. I don't know. That's a game I'm targeting. Maybe because it's weather safe. Maybe I feel better about all of those bats. But it's like I'm looking at that right away, and I don't know. Both sides that I could get on for sure.
Right. Same here. Yeah. No, I'm glad that you mentioned that the tidbit about it being weatherproof tomorrow because that's super important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And for that, it should be a game that I guess we dig into more than we normally would probably on like an average slate with no weather concerns.
Yeah.
We do have one game to get to. And it's a game where maybe I'll shock you with what I'm going to say. Maybe not. It's the Mariners and the Yankees.
You can say would shock me. I'm pretty sure it didn't happen.
It's Mariners Yankees. It's Rones Elias versus Chase Whitley, a lefty going for the Mariners and a righty throwing for the Yanks at Safeco Field. Another retractable roof, so don't worry about the rain because it does rain in Seattle a lot. But anyway, what do you? Let me hear what you have to say maybe on this game, and then let me tell you the one guy that I love the most in this game.
If it's Chase Whitley, I'm gonna
not Chase Whitley.
A little bit. What was that?
My guy's not Chase Whitley. If that's what you're.
No, Elias is who I'd be leaning towards in this game overall. I mean, he has that big ceiling potential, which we saw against CK's Tigers. Oh, he made him look silly. It was 40+ on DK. It's something we love. I mean, last game he was around 20 points, and he was much more expensive. He's still around that price. He's actually gone up by $100 instead of 8,500 is 86. But I don't know. The Yankees don't scare me as much as they used to, especially in Seattle. Another game with weather issues, but yeah, I would take Elias.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? That is not my guy either, but I do like him. I think he's been a pleasant surprise this season. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He gets the rookie status. His K rate has been fairly decent, and he's pitched well against good teams in certain spots, and not as well against some teams, I guess, in spots that we thought he was going to pitch better in. I do not really care for Chase Whitley at all, and actually, my guy is targeting Chase Whitley. The weird thing is when I mention this, that it's not going to really really jump off the board as like a super awesome play, but I really like using this guy a whole lot, and I just got this feeling, I can't think of the name of that song. But
I was gonna say it's either Captain Seager or Brad Miller because I can't figure out if it's Seager.
It's neither. It's neither. It's neither.
Then you gotta give it to me.
It's Michael Saunders.
Oh, cool.
I love Michael Saunders. I don't know why. I love him. I think he's awesome. If the Cubs got Michael Saunders, the Cubs got Michael Saunders, he might instantly become like one of my favorite guys. I have no reasons to love him, but I do.
Because of your blind love for him, I will be throwing him in a roster or two tomorrow that I make up somewhere because I gotta respect that kind of stuff. That's I don't know. I thought I had it. Miller, Seager. You're like,
It's
no, stop it, drop it.
right. It's not that Saunders has been bad. He's 270 on the year, which is very. That's an average to above average Major League Baseball player. Not a whole lot of home run potential, but he runs well. He gets to hit in front of Cano. So there's a lot of stuff there that you can like. And I like him. I do. I
I love.
really do.
You know what I love most about it is the pricing. When we start talking about guys that are cheaper, because honestly, anyone can come on here and say, "Hey, you should probably play Cano tomorrow." It's like, who wants to really hear that? It's like, yeah, I know, I could, I might, he's really expensive. Let's hear about the guys that you can actually squeeze in with these affordable pitchers we've been talking about for the past hour, you know? And you hit that stuff on the head, and I hope they go off tomorrow. It's like, I love the cheaper picks. It's like, we might as well look at that stuff, because that's where we're really grinding for the important parts of our roster.
Yeah, so Saunders, obviously Robbie. There's a lot of ways you can go with those Mariners. And the Mariners, last time they faced the Yankees at home, I ran a Mariners stack out that night. They faced, I believe it was Phelps, and they scored like 10 runs. I won some nice money that night. That was a lot of fun. So you know what? I can't. I have to go back to the well with that. I like that.
There you go. Hey, that's all it takes sometimes is just, hey, last time out, it's like the Stros for me, the Astros. It's like, hey, when I start to get behind these guys, my bankroll increases pretty significantly. So I'm going to roll them out. And even your Cubbies over the past 6 or 7 games, I'll give you that, man. I couldn't even believe it. It's like we started talking, a week, 10 days ago about that. Cubs were doing terrible. Red Sox were doing awesome. Complete flip-flop. Like, it was all right. So I've lost every game since we started talking about this, and the Cubs keep winning. But luckily, DFS trends, I started fading the Sox a week ago and started hopping on the Cubbies train. So you got to pay attention to the teams as they're riding hot, for sure. People overlook that stuff. You mentioned it earlier. It's like a lot of people will put up starting pitchers. What's your win-loss record? What's your ERA? It's like, hey, what have you been doing for me lately? How are you pitching in the past few weeks? And how hot are these teams that we're batting against? I mean, when Oakland gets hot, when Toronto gets hot, you have to ride those teams for 3 or 4 days till they stop. Then maybe you take a couple days off from them. But, I think the trends are there, man, and good luck with the Cubbies. I mean, I'm very jealous because it's almost like they stole my Red Sox mojo. But, we're going to bounce back. We both got 6% chances. We should do a
6%?
thing. That was great.
So you're saying there's a chance.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's just, I can't even deal with this. It's so funny how baseball is, week to week. It's like one week you're like, hey, we're riding a 5 or 6 game streak. Woo! And then all of a sudden you're like, we haven't won for 7 days, 8 days. It's just too bad. It's the losing streak. Baseball is funny.
All right, man. Yeah, man. All right. Well, we got through all the games. We had a lot of fun. I'm actually gonna go watch some. I'm gonna watch the Cubbies. They're losing 3-2 right now. McCutcheon's unreal. But I will let you head out, and hopefully everybody had a good time today. I know I did. You guys can reach out to us on Twitter or anything if you have any questions. Good luck tomorrow, though. The Furious hat tip there. Go Cubs, go! As always, guys. Have a good night. Take care.